Welcome to Field Talk, a Monitor Farm Scotland podcast. Join our host, Wallace Curry, as he explores the stories from Monitor Farm networks on how farmers have adapted their businesses with support from specialists and experts to assess farm performance and explore opportunities. Monitor Farm Scotland is farmer-led, farmer-driven, encouraging discussion and solution-based thinking.
Welcome everyone to Series 2 of Field Talk, the Monitor Farm Scotland programme podcast. Last series we had a really good chat with, all of the Monitor Farm programme farmers. We also had a special, a sort of extra episode, having a sort of chat with two vets with looking forward to lambing and getting ready for that. Hopefully now that stage is majorly, for the most part, past for most of you, but maybe not for some of you. So I hope, one, you've either had a good lambing, I hope you're having a good lambing, calvings are going well, and hopefully we're filming this at the end of March, the weather at the minute is lovely. I hope you're still experiencing the same at the end of April time as well. The plan for Series 2 is to look at a lot of the innovation projects that are involved in the Monitor Farm programme. We're going to speak to the experts and the people involved in most of these innovation projects throughout this series. And today, the focus of that is looking at Monil virtual fencing. We'll go over the technology involved, we'll go over the benefits of it, and we'll go over, maybe you're sitting listening and this has been something that's been on your mind, you're considering. We'll go over the why you should over the course of this episode. We have two people on the call today, both very well versed in this topic. We have Elinor Aasen and we have Tony Waterhouse. So guys, would you like to say hello?
Hello.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to have you both. I'm looking forward to this. We've got recording now in the late afternoon in late March, and it's, as I was saying earlier, it's been good weather, which is something we're maybe not used to at this time of year. But I'm sure we'll come on to some of the benefits of this product, both in all weathers and across all sort of terrains as well. But before we do that, could I just have a bit of background from both of you, who you are, what your sort of story is, and your involvement in this product, purely because you're first on my screen, Elinor. We'll start with you.
Yes, so like you said, my name is Elinor, and I'm Norwegian, so excuse me if I have any words mixed up or pronounce something wrong. So I have the most fantastic job in the world, if you ask me. It's my official title is Head of Farmer Success, meaning that I work at this virtual fencing company, helping the farmers be successful with the product, helping them get the most value out of the product, and also leading the support team. And my background is that I have a master's degree in entrepreneurship, so I have a deep interest into building businesses from small to big, which is very relevant into this company because it's growing very rapidly. And I also grew up at a farm up in the barren mountains of Norway, very cold mountains. So that's my way into this company.
What sort of amount of daylight would you get on the home farm, Elinor?
Well, midwinter we have very little daylight, like maybe an hour a day, and it's not proper daylight either. It's very dark, so yeah, minus 30 degrees isn't uncommon also, so it's cold and dark.
Yeah, sometimes we think we've got it hard when in truth we maybe don't. And also, don't apologise at all for saying words wrong. I'm pretty certain 6 minutes into this episode I've probably already said quite a few wrong, to be honest, so don't worry at all. And Tony, what about yourself? What's your involvement and what's your story previous to this role?
Yeah, well, I'm an ex-member of SRUC. I've now got whatever an emeritus position is, but I'm basically working on some contracts for SRUC, but also on private consultancy work. I did quite a lot of involvement in practical and academic beef and sheep systems, extensive systems, up to 10 or 15 years now, focused on some of the technology and a variety of stuff, and I've had, frankly, 15 years experience of various evolutions of virtual fences, from it being an idea to very dodgy prototypes to some ones that really now work and are incredibly smart. And I'm looking forward to actually seeing the next, I think probably 10 years will be my time to see what this next 10 years will give in the lifetime of this. So yeah, so I've been involved on UK government committees looking at the animal welfare issues of virtual fences, but also talking to, in addition to working here on this project involving Monil, I've also had quite a lot of involvement on some projects and some discussions with some of the other companies that are active elsewhere in the world, because it's a pretty big topic elsewhere in the world as well.
Yeah, I was out in New Zealand and saw a lot of it and a lot of discussions around it as well.
Yeah.
Just last year. Let's take you back just quickly, Tony. Take you back 15 years. How receptive were people to it 15, 13, 14, 15 years ago?
Amazingly, two camps saying, "What? This is just Doctor Who, Cloud Cuckoo Land." Again, I could say there was a famous subcommittee involved. Some people who should know quite well what they did, and they went, "Why would farmers want this? Why can't they just go out and move the cows themselves? You know, what's wrong with wire?" You know, that was the sort of bottom line of a grant application we were involved in, which went to what it was basically, we don't get it. But yeah, others people went, wow, yes, you know, they instantly went, but then the practicalities got in the way, frankly, you know. And it's a bit like the evolution of we're all old enough just about, you know, to go from the first ever clunky mobile phone to where we are today with a smartphone, and just look at the evolution of that in the last 20 odd years. I think we're going through the same sort of phenomenon with this somewhat smaller area, but just as revolutionary potential.
Yeah,
Kit. Yeah.
absolutely. It's always quite funny to watch over time just how, you know, something comes in, as you said, it's that sort of robotic feel, like this is so alien, and then how quick it is, you know, not even a generation, and it's just normality for someone. I mean, the thought that someone wouldn't have a phone sitting next to them at all times to most people now is phenomenal. We only have to go back 10 years ago, and that was even not quite there, you know, it's quite crazy. Elinor, looking at the product itself, just for the sake of this episode, obviously we're going to be covering it in depth and covering quite a lot around it. But could you just introduce for the listeners the technology itself? What is it? What's its role?
Yeah, so I can start with what it or how it actually works. So we call it a virtual fence because the fence line itself is something that you draw with your finger on your phone. And this fence is then downloaded into devices. The devices are necklaces that we attach to all of the adult cows in a herd. And when these necklaces or these cows with the necklaces approach the fence line that you drew in the app, the device starts to emit a sound. And this sound, it increases in pitch and goes higher and higher in pitch if the cow continues to go out of the boundary and in the wrong direction. And after about 7 seconds, if the cow hasn't turned back by then, there is emitted a little electric shock from some electrodes on the inside of the device. And the electric shock is about 1/10 of what you get from the electric fencer, so it's not a very hard electric shock, but we use that to train the animals to turn back when they hear the sound. So it's a maximum of 3 sounds and shocks after each other, and if the cow continues in the wrong direction, then it's marked as escaped. And you get a notification on your phone saying that the cow has escaped. So,
Which is a fun notification to get.
yes, it's a bit different notification than you usually get, but this notification tells you that the cow has escaped. Luckily, the cows do actually learn the system quite quickly. We do plan a week of training, but most cows are trained much before a week has passed. And after training, they turn back when they hear the sound. So it is practically a sound fence once the cows are trained.
And just in case folk are listening and thinking, oh, I'm gonna Google this, make sure. Talk about the exact product that we're considering here. What company are we? What company's product are we focusing on in this discussion?
Yeah. So this product is called Monil. So it spells Monil. And we call it virtual fences. And what's special about the Monil virtual fences is that we have decided to put all of the technology bits on top of the cow, meaning that it stays out of the way of stones or heather or water troughs or anything that the cow is in touch with underneath their their necks, and also putting it on top of the cow gives the solar panel, which actually charges the device, the best possible access to daylight. So having it on top of the cow has made us able to stay energy positive from mid-February until end of September and into October, meaning that the farmers don't have to charge the devices throughout the whole grazing season, which is quite amazing. And another thing I want to say about this device is that it having all of the technology on top of the cow also gives it the best possible access to GPS, the GPS signal, and also cellular coverage. So yeah, a lot of perks with doing that.
And is this a product that has been developed in the UK, or is this penetrating into the UK market?
So this is a Norwegian company. It's 3 years old, and it's about 30 employees, and we are focusing on the Norwegian market, where the concept of virtual fencing is highly adapted across the farming industry, both for sheep and cattle. And our second market is UK, which we started to work. We started to work with UK farmers last year, and this year I've been sent across the across the sea to be here in Scotland to get our UK operations up and running. So yeah, so I'm based here now to help the UK farmers succeed with the product.
I hope you're enjoying Scotland. I hope.
Absolutely, it's amazing, and farmers live in the most beautiful places. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, there's not many folk that get off a plane in Edinburgh and think, oh God, it's quite warm. So glad you can do that. We'll come back to yourself, Eleanor. There's a few things else to cover, but from your perspective, Tony, why is the Monitor Farm carrying out this project? What's the interest of the Monitor Farm
Yeah.
program?
I mean, again, just to give the background, I mean, I've said this stuff's been evolving over 10, 15 years, from dodgy prototypes to sophisticated users on farms. There's probably been about 100 proper experiments on research farms and similar. They've shown that the technology works, but they've missed out the people bit and they've missed out the money bit. And those, at the end of the day, the secret how well this kit and this system will work I mean, again, in the context of Scottish systems, is there isn't one answer. There's umpteen different ways it works, but virtually nobody sat down and looked at the systems end and basically understand it from not how well the system works, but how well the individuals get the system to work for them. And I think the key bit was to be telling some of those stories, because again, that's a bit that will make it successful as a concept, and a bit of technology that will generally help them do their job better and easier and all those sort of things, and eventually profitably. Those three things all combine, I think.
Do we know the price of these collars? How does it work? Is it a case of you buy a few collars? Do you buy a subscription? How does someone who's maybe not involved in the Monitor Farm program that's listening, how would they get involved? I'm not sure if that's for you or Eleanor. Actually, now I say that,
I
Eleanor.
can I can answer that. So at least when you purchase the product from us, it's a list price of £270 per device. At least this spring we have a 15% discount, leads the price to £230 per device. And then there is this additional cost, which is the yearly subscription that covers the cost of keeping the connection going with the device. It's kind of like a small cell phone inside of all of the devices. So to keep all of the tech up and running, we have a yearly subscription of £40 per device per year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the sort of lifespan of a collar?
Yeah, so like I said, the company itself is 3 years old, but we have some of the best engineers in both mechanics and microelectronics, and they are so confident in the product that they've built. So we have a 5-year warranty, and yeah, we'll see how long they last after 5 years, but at least 5 years. We're really confident that they will last at least 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And I think it's one of those things. I think when you hear a figure like you've just said there, Eleanor, which I think it's appreciated in a lot of ways because a lot of companies wouldn't be open about price on things like this, like a podcast. So it's appreciated when that's said. But I think when a number like that said, it's stark. It's like, oh, that's a big number. But when you really look into it, and we all know the costs of fencing, we all know the challenges of fencing, and that we're not allowed to use products like creosote, and we're seeing them break after 4 and 5 years anyway. So it's a real sort of pro on you guys' side, I would say, is that. So yeah, no, it sounds good to me. Um, Tony, jumping back to yourself, I think this is more your side of things. Um, from a labour perspective, at the end of the day, yes, it's technology, but we're still human staff. We've got to make sure we know how to work it. Are these quite simple systems to operate?
I think my view is they are. I mean, I've operated some myself, and other companies, two other companies, in fact, independently on other bits of project before joining this project, supporting the QMS project with Monil. And sorry, compared to a mobile phone and the multiple ways those can work, I mean, frankly, they do some pretty simple things pretty well. And other than just quietly getting yourself lost in which button to press next, it's fine. The beauty is, I think the cattle understand it better than people initially, but pretty quickly people are pretty switched on to it. But yet they're always learning, and I think that's one of the issues is just how do you actually make this bit of kit, this thing work for you. I mean, it was quite interesting, Wallace, how you talk about wire there. I've had some discussions about money with colleagues people over here, but also in North America. And over in North America, the conversation was all about wire and how much wire they could save and how much maintenance cost they would save, and that would pay for the cost. The conversation we've had with the 4 monitor farms, the word wire never appeared. We're not
Okay.
seeing it as a replacement for either temporary electric fences or for permanent ones. It's almost in a context where we would find it challenging, in fact impossible, to do what we're doing with virtual fences with a wire, and it's therefore other things we can get out of it, which is a challenge. If it was just wire, we could do the sums tomorrow, but we're not replacing wire. I mean, some people will certainly use it potential to basically support conventional systems and things. But I think it's just interesting. It isn't that. It's about fundamentally, it's about people and the cattle and the pasture and getting a better way of managing that. And my conviction is that done well, properly, with all the right words, getting the hang of it, then all those things can be better, frankly, than the way we are. So it's a way of improving our systems and therefore take a lot of the risks out of farming in some of the quite challenging environments.
And I think that's a really important point, Tony. And I think this one's for Eleanor, given the sort of short chat I've had with you just where you both sit. Yeah, I look out the window at the minute. I'm looking at a sort of neatly fenced pasture, but in general, that's not the case for all of Scotland in particular. How successful are we finding Monil in that expansive, extensive sort of area that a lot of cattle will be in?
Yeah, so I can say that 60% of my customers are primarily using the product for hill grazing and conservational grazing. So we do compare or to find out if the farmer can argue that the price of the product or the price of the investment is worth it for them. As one part is the fencing cost, but when it comes to hill grazing, it's also a very big value for them just to know where their cows are and spend less time finding them when they have or when they're going out to look after them. And also I want to say that especially for the hill farmers, it's been quite valuable to keep the herd close, especially if you have a bull with the herd, and rather move the fence quite frequently in the hills instead of just hoping that they all spend time together throughout the season. And the next thing I want to mention as well as one of the biggest values is the things that has to do with the health of the cow. So one perk with the way we have designed the device is that it's very close to the cow. It doesn't dangle in any way. It's very all of the sensors are very close to the cow, meaning that we know a lot about the movement of the cows. So we are building a lot of features on top of the very accurate data we have on the movement. So we can tell if a cow is sleeping, ruminating, walking slowly, walking fast, or is in heat. So this year already we will launch our first version of a heat detection and build other functionalities on top of it being a virtual fence.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, the movement of an animal is so valuable in so many things, like you're saying there, Eleanor. When I did my master's, I was contacted by a uni about looking at rumen monitoring boluses for very similar things. And we actually ended up changing the study, and eventually it didn't happen, but we changed to a virtual fence product at the time, and I think it was maybe in its infancy at that stage, or certainly the one we were trialing. But the potential I was seeing then, and that was God, almost a decade ago, was phenomenal. So I can just imagine that sort of jump forward. There's one question that always comes to me when I consider this product is, and I would love to hear the answer because I don't fully understand how this works. You've put them in a space, it doesn't matter, just X space on the hill. And they're there for, say, 3 weeks, right? They get used to that little patch of area, they're used to it. They then almost probably know where that little squeaking noise is going to appear, so they probably almost bring their fence in a wee bit and they don't even get to that area. So then when you try to move them, how does it work? Do they not almost not want to leave that area, or does it just activate a squeak until they get to that place? I don't know how that part works.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And actually, what I see is that the sound isn't frightening them. They're more using the sound as a tool to know where the boundary is. So the cows often have up to several hundreds of sounds during a day. So instead of seeing the fence, they're just listening to where it is. So when I move the fence, I see that the cows notice, sometimes within seconds, minutes, maybe a couple of hours, but I've never struggled with getting cattle across of the boundary that they've had before. So it is also possible to use the movement of the fence to move the cows as well, because they're most often really eager to get access to what's on the other side of where the boundary has been.
And does the sound somehow direct them? I don't even know how that would work.
Yeah, it is directional. So that means that the sound increases in pitch when it goes out of the fence, and then if it turns back to where it's supposed to be, it decreases again. So it's leading the cows back to where they are supposed to be. So so I see that the cows are very comfortable using the sound to guide them throughout the field and to
It's
know
like
where
a
they can
virtual
be
hot
and
and
not.
cold.
Yeah, is that your impression too, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to pick up some of that. I mean, there is a new product, not a new product, a big product coming out of New Zealand called Halter, which isn't coming to UK soon, so it's not in competition. It's mainly used in dairying, and they're using that system with left and right, from the left and right ear, to tell cows to come and go back to milking, and through which gate they can go, and that works extremely well, and is reducing the amount of contract labour that New Zealand dairies are having to use, and is not pushing the cows and all that sort of stuff. And that's really sophisticated. Now, Monil doesn't need to go there yet or ever, but it just works really well. And again, I've seen where the situation is, and the paddock that it's in, 10 hectares, the cows are always there or thereabouts. And if you change the boundary, one cow will find out the boundary's gone. And as soon as it goes through, all the other cows go, oh, what's going on here? And I've seen a situation, I heard of 50 dairy havers in another bit of pasture where literally within 10 minutes, the whole lot had moved from one side of the field, which is inside it, to the other side of fresh grazing. And that's just so easy to do without, with a minimum of hassle and stress. And no temporary electric wire fences in that context, but it's the same on a hill. You just basically allow the cattle to find their way across, and if they don't, maybe just have to go up there and give them a wee prod, but they'll watch each other and they'll hear the sounds that others hear, and respond to the sight of other animals getting the little electric pulse they might get. So it's quite interesting how it works as a sort of herd phenomenon as well. The herd bit is really, really important when an animal escapes from the boundary, either by accident or deliberately. It'll go, oh, I'm here, I want to return. It won't do what happens with a normal fence. It'll go, I'm here, you guys should join me. And before you know it, half the herd or the whole herd has piled through this hole in the fence and somebody's got to go and shift them back. Well, again, we'll pick it up, but that's the completely transformational difference. A little escape like that is just the characteristic of the system working, whereas with an electric fence or a conventional fence, you've got to go move them back, hassle, potential danger to humans and animals, and somebody's then got to mend the fence again. Well, it doesn't happen with a virtual fence. It mends itself. Each animal has got its own fence, and that group cohesion makes it work. And it is something to, wow, you just see it, watching it happen is something, again, I think our farmers will see soon, but I've seen it happen, and it just goes, oh, that's how it works. It's pretty clever, isn't it? They're cleverer than we are in how to run these systems. That's one of my little convictions.
I think it would. I think it would be remiss of me to not ask the one thing that a lot of people probably think and doesn't seem like near the issue that it maybe was near the start is the welfare side. I think when this was originally beginning, there was the whole concept of that shock. Now, Elinor, you alluded earlier to, put my hand really close to the camera there, you alluded earlier to the fact that this was about a tenth of what you would get if you were to touch an electric fence. But yeah, just tell us about the welfare side. We're dealing with an animal at the end of the day. Is it in a pretty good spot?
Yeah, so the animals have quite a strict training regime so that they, in a safe boundary and calm place, learn how the product works. And after the training is done, it is just a sound fence primarily. So that just opens so many opportunities for the cows to graze longer and be more outside and have more flexible grazing season and access to more feed, and just all of the health benefits of the farmer being a lot more, being able to monitor the health of the animals a lot closer. I think really does weigh up the fact that we do give the cows a very small shock. And we have researched this quite a lot, especially the stress levels of the cow. We have installed Fitbit watches on cows using the using the fence and looking at the stress levels, and it's overall really calm and not stressful for the cows. You see that they are comfortable with using the sound as a guide to where they can be and not, and it's not more stressful for them to listen to where the fence is instead of seeing it. It's just using another sense. So yeah.
I mean, Wallace, I'm quite keen to say that clearly any management tool has got some welfare costs and potential welfare gains. So whether the animal gets a tag in its ear, or gets a dose, or has to go put through a crate, all those things have cost to anyone in terms of their welfare. Okay, and sometimes it's minimal, sometimes it's not. There's an undoubtedly cost with this, particularly in the training period, but the benefits, I think, far outweigh those, and the potential is for the animal to be totally in control of when it gets the sound and the electric pulse. There's been umpteen scientific studies that have looked at the levels of stress hormones and things, comparing it with electrical fencing or with conventional fencing, and virtually none have seen anything other than it's the same. And I was on the animal welfare committee that looked at this with the idea of looking at this potential issue. And again, the green light came, in fact, that it's a potential to really genuinely improve that. I mean, at the moment, you can look at the phone now and get an image of where your cows are and get an instant feeling. If you know cattle, you go, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. You don't get that reassurance when you're not there up on the hill, and you know you're not going back up the hill until 4 o'clock tomorrow. But you can look now and go, yeah, everything looks fine. Or potentially you can get alerts saying, no, things aren't right. One animal's by itself, or the whole lot spread out. What's caused that? Is something disturbed them? That reassurance that you can check on that at 24 hours a day is just a real benefit in terms of the sort of virtual monitoring element of that. And I think that's actually potentially as important as the containment element, because it gives people both. I mean, the biggest challenging thing in terms of money is how do you value peace of mind, the reassurance that you know what's going on, even when you're not there. Yeah. So I think my conviction is welfare should be better, and it should be a way of improving welfare, not focusing on the relatively mild electric pulse that the animals occasionally get.
You're also very right on the frame of mind thing and the peace of mind side of things as well, Tony. I was only a few days ago, I was speaking to someone and we were talking about a study in which someone with poorer well-being day to day makes worse decisions, and if you're constantly on edge of Christ, where are the cattle? Where are they? Or maybe not to that extent. Decisions day to day are going to worsen, and also it's just that constant of you don't want to be stressed 24/7, do you? If you can just glance, that's a really valuable tool in itself.
I mean, I think we have to watch that for. I mean, we know screen time. People do use too much time on the screen time. We don't want to spend people spending too much time on their screens and not going and looking at their cattle. But the
I
truth
agree.
is that they can do it a lot more efficiently and generally get that reassurance that if something is wrong, they get an alert and they can go and find them really quickly rather than spending days, or they'll get reassurance from that. I don't know how we value that. It's a bit like insurance costs. What would be? But it's definitely a worthwhile thing. And again, the little thing is that a lot of the context where cattle are on hills is it's not everything works fine. It's when there are little disasters. Somebody loses a cow, somebody gets stuck in a bog, the calf just disappears. Those are now really important financial issues, and it's the sort of thing. Well, we're not going to do that again, are we? And I think it's providing support that says this is a better way of keeping a handle on what's going on, and the monitoring gives you the combination of containment in a particular area and get them to do a job, but also that monitoring gives you peace of mind, but also I think will reduce risks of things going wrong, and that people can go sort the problem before it gets worse. Those I think are sort of things which again is quite a challenge, and I think one hopes, Eleanor, that you've got customers both in Norway and things who'll come up with little stories that will support the ones we get through monitor farms that said yes, it did mean I found out about that cow, or I kept the cow out of the bog. The first thing is keep the cow out of that bit of boggy ground, because you couldn't do that with a fence. But two, if one of them gets in there, you'll get an alert saying the animal's stuck. And we know that a cow stuck in a bog will die within relatively few hours. But you've still got time to go and rescue it if you get an alert saying it's not moving.
Yeah.
Can you? Sorry, Eleanor, on you go.
I just wanted to say that when it comes to the peace of mind thing, I do sometimes, or before, when I'm onboarding a farmer, I often ask, what are your primary goals with this product? What is success to you? And it's always talking about, I want to spend less time on maintaining fences. I want to spend less time going out to check on the cows, and things like that. And then I ask them again when the grazing season is over, what was the biggest change for you? What was the biggest value? And then it is the peace of mind that you can wake up in the morning and just go into Facebook and check Facebook, and then you can go into Monil and just check that everything's all right with your cows, and just always have that information accessible. And also the time saved on just knowing where the cows are. So if something has happened, you are the first to know. If the cows are out of your fence, it's not your neighbor telling you, it's your phone. And if something's wrong with the cow, if the cow is still, and yeah, you should go and check on that cow. You can know that way sooner than you would have otherwise, and you also save a lot of time on just knowing where to look when you go into the hills to find your cattle. I have farmers or last year's customers on average saved over 5 hours per week during the grazing season, which I think is quite extraordinary.
It is. Yeah, I would agree. Can you track? I don't know. Let's say cow 382 because it says it on another tab I have open. Cow 382. Can you track where it's been, or do you just know where it is currently?
Yeah, so you can. We do have the historic data of where the cow has been at all times when it's been wearing the device. In the app, you can see a heat map of where the whole herd has been for either you can choose the last hour, 24 hours, or week, and the same goes with individual animal. And this is something that we're building more functionality on as well, so that it will be easier to actually trace exactly where the cow has been, because the heat map now works in a way that it leaves stains in the map, so you can see where they've spent more time than other places. So it tells you a bit about the movement of the herd, and also the quality of the feed and things like that. And moving forward, we will have even more data accessible for the user. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll be doom scrolling Monil soon enough, Eleanor. I'll be constantly on that. You can't get off it. Tony, focusing on the Monitor Farm program itself, you mentioned right at the start that no place is the same. It wasn't exactly what you said, but that was the sort of point. I believe we've got South Ayrshire, Stirlingshire, Argyllshire, and Strathspey involved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how does each place differ in this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the nice ones, I think, is that two of the farms have continued with traditional hill grazing, and they want to see a way of improving that, getting there, knowing where the cows are, putting them where they are, knowing where they are, and going there quickly, and then starting to use that. But two of them have basically stopped grazing their rough grazing in the summer months. They're still accessed by sheep, but the cattle basically come off the hill a number of years ago for those reasons that it was too much trouble. But if we can shift these cattle back onto the hill, where in the summer months there's grass coming out of their ears in simple terms, then clearly there's potential quite a lot of feed savings off the lower ground and potential to keep more cows, etc. So re-establishing that. So two of them are basically going to be reintroducing cows, some with calves at foot, some not, back to hill grazing for the first time. And I think that's itself. Well, the others are basically going to try to do it better, move them to different bits, potentially create a scenario where it would be suitable for a nature conservation prescription payment, even though they're not going to follow that. But it means it can show it would work if we knew what to do. So that's the thing. So there, and I say they're not all calving at the same time. We've got ones where they're going to be running a bull with cows out there thing, which is really quite interesting. And their objective, doing clear, I think Eleanor said it earlier, keeping the cows close enough together that the bull doesn't get hit with a problem, but can't be in two places at once if the herd splits into two. And some of these farms are massive, so they will split into two unless we keep them together. So we got some doing that, and we got some where we're going to have calving occurring actually at the end of the summer period. Maybe the cattle will be brought somewhat further down, but still using the kit as a way of keeping them tightish, but not too tight, but also know where they are. And again, we'll see how it works out. But I know from other projects, spotting the cow that separates off means you know where it is, but also that's often an indicator of getting ready to calve, that she does separate away from the rest of the herd, and therefore you can go and find her. So you won't miss a calving if you want to choose to calve outside. So that's just some of the variety, and we're going all the way from quite different ground, from fairly low lying hill ground to stuff that's really steep, 3,000. The cattle can go to 3,000 feet if nothing was going to stop them. So quite a diversity there in that. Still, I think the focus is on the hill part, but we've got other parts of this year in the system where the low ground will come into play. But I think that gives us some of the diversity that will be useful. And with four different groups of people will all have four different answers, or sometimes more than four.
Is it specific enough? You mentioned there a really good point that I probably haven't touched on enough yet. Is it specific enough to sort of work in a rotational grazing system? That's doable? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's doable. Sorry, I think that's the way currently most of the guys with the hill people are going to basically run a virtual paddock system. So on a bit of ground, maybe 10 hectares of hill ground with a good water supply and all that. You need some natural water supply. Keep them on there for a week. Check to see what the pasture looks like, and then shift them to the next block along. Maybe get back maybe once or maybe 2 or 3 times in the grazing season. Maybe defer a bit of grazing.
Yeah, and what I see when you're using the system to graze a field with very good grass and you want to keep them tight and move them very frequently, you get the really crisp line in the grass exactly where you've had the virtual fence. So it's very specific, and I also see that you can be a lot more flexible on how you divide your paddock, because you can make gateways to the water troughs and other things that you want them to have access to. So that way you can make a new way of doing it.
So Wallace, I mean, what we're currently happening in many of our hill grazings where we don't have internal fences, the way we sometimes had a bit in the past, and is in essence the cattle on those systems is making all the choices, and they will have their preferred areas and stuff. But frankly, if we can get the sweet spot between them to work a little bit harder off that ground and on some of the stuff, we'll get rid of some of that thatch that builds up over the winter by not being grazed in the summer, we'll get a bit more of the dung out there, we'll get more productivity, and the cattle will go back. But the sheep should also benefit from the fact that the cows aren't mowing their preferred bit of pasture, but we can spread them out. And that's what rotational grazing does on the in-by, but it will certainly do the same on the hill. And that's fundamentally what's expected, some sort of rotational paddock graze element of hill.
From a monitor farm perspective, I understand this trial's in its infancy, just starting for most. Is there any challenges that you're maybe anticipating, or do you think you're in a pretty well ironed out spot?
Well, I think telecoms is one of the interesting issues we've got with diversity, and we haven't mentioned it. Clearly, this is relying on both your phone connecting to the internet via the mobile phone system and the collars connecting up. And there's some resilient, we can use the right waffly words, but it'll work without all that. But frankly, some of this ground will not be perfect for telecoms. The GPS stuff should be pretty good, all right, but you still need to make two-way contact to either know what's happening or to make a change to the boundaries. But again, that's a bit of diversity. We've definitely got one where we know some of the farm will not have telecoms cover, but the answer is don't put the cows there. It's a pretty big farm. We don't need to put the cows there. But even if they do go there, the collars will still work. And if we have some down, if the system goes down, the collars will carry on working with GPS working. But they need a day for the whole system to come back up to life. But I think one of the things we'll find from four farms is whether any element of patchiness in either mobile phone coverage from the app that controls the system to the collars which have to communicate back to Monil's database in the cloud, whether just how important that is. But we've double checked all the farms, and they've got basic connectivity. That's one of the things I've done to basically make sure with the farmers that they've actually taken out a random collar or two and just check that we've got connectivity up. So I don't think, Eleanor, we've got a problem with the four farms having real problems with connectivity. But it will be a bit of challenge possibly in some bits, and we just have to it's just one of the issues of Scotland, frankly.
You should try to plan a bit according to where you have self-service. So like Tony said, the devices are still emitting the sound and the electric shocks and everything where it's supposed to do that according to where it got the last message. So it has downloaded the fence, and so when it goes to an area without self-service, it will still meet the fence. But the thing is that if you want to change the fence, or if you want to know exactly where the cow is right now, and it doesn't have self-service, then you're not able to communicate with it. So it's all about being a bit strategic on where you put up the fences. So especially the training fence, I wouldn't put that up in an area with very patchy self-service, just because you want to pay more attention to where they are at all times during that period. But mid-season, when they are going up into the hills, if they are passing through areas with patchy self-service, then it's usually not an issue. But I would recommend, if you're doing a major change to the fence, you're taking them in or something like that, I would make the change maybe let's say a day in advance, just to make sure that all of the devices get the last update before you do something drastic.
Eleanor, you'll probably have had a bit more feedback regarding Monil than this project here with the Monitor Farm will have yet. What's the main sort of points of feedback you get with these trials, or with people not even really doing it as a trial, just we're using them and we're going to see how it works? What's the main feedback you receive?
So the positive feedback is that people realize that they have so much more areas that they want to graze that they haven't been grazing, and just knowing how precise it is and getting to know the product make them really, really confident in using the system to get a lot more out of their resources and save them a lot more time. Last year we had a couple of issues. One thing was that 11% of the devices had a production error that made them crack up the plastic around the button and take in water over time, which was it led to some devices just dying mid-season, which is not very, very good. So what we have done is that we have put the solar panel now underneath the plastic so that there are no possible way of water ingress. And what that also does is that it covers the solar panel so that If it has any impacts onto the solar panel, it won't affect the charging. It can still damage the plastics, but it won't affect the charging. Yeah, so that was like the biggest headache for me that worked with the support team last year. It was the water ingress. So yeah, and also we had a lot of feedback on the app, and we are really focused on making it very easy to use for everyone. So when I hear a farmer saying, "Oh, I don't know how to use tech," or "My fingers are too big to use apps like this," or things like that, um, my response is that you are the exact person that we want to be confident in using this app. And if it doesn't work for you, then we haven't done our jobs right. So we have done a lot of improvements on the app from last season that we are launching. Yeah, we launched it in like bits and pieces. So every week now, moving into the grazing season, we will have updates on the app based on customer feedback.
I mean, consumer-wise, you can't ask for much better than that. Constant updates as to what's been required. That's, if something's not working, we're going to try and make it work. I think that's pretty valuable.
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess throughout this episode, we've focused primarily on cattle. Is this a product that's available in the sheep and I guess goat world as well, but sheep in particular?
Yeah, I mean there are 5 products out there across the globe, and one of the companies started off with a goat and sheep collar. It's basically the same, a bit except a bit smaller. There's no particular reason. It works technically. I think the issue is probably going to be economics, and whether or not it would be useful in many commercial. The value of a cow currently, let's say 2,000 quid versus the value of a ewe, 100, 150. But the same technology on it, it's not as appropriate at the moment. I think potentially for nature conservation type projects where there's high value in terms of when the grazing element is more important, and I won't say the case, but basically people we normally call as hobby farmers may also be interested, but I can't see it being easily transferable thing. But it will work, and in 10 years, 15 years time, when Eleanor's found a way to get the costs down by having less equipment, it might work fine, and it would be fantastic, frankly, if it would, because of clearly the issues we've got in managing our hill flocks.
Just a small task for you there, Elinor.
Yeah,
I mean, I just don't think. Yeah.
I think it's very true what you're saying about the cost, Tony. Like building one for a sheep is just as costly as building one for a cow, and for now at least the production cost is quite high still. But moving forward, it will be the cost will be lower. So, and we have actually made devices for sheep, and we have trialed them, and it's approved, but we haven't commercialized it yet. We're hoping to do that in 2026 if we are going into the sheep market, but. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I mean, undoubtedly the current collars, the cattle collars, would possibly work on a big sheep, but they're too heavy. And they're meant to be too heavy with the counter devices. It's just not appropriate. Yeah.
The sheep devices that we have made, they look the exact same because our cow devices are very small. So it does fit a sheep as well, but it's just the rubber bands are shorter and the electrodes are smaller. So that's the only difference.
In a commercial setup, just in a matter of interest, I think at times hill rams might be worth doing with this sort of technology, mainly from the tracking point of view. Just to make sure you knew where the heck they are and where they're not. The most at that time for that month of the year, that's the most valuable, the only valuable thing they do. But them all being in a corner and not spread out is something that's quite a challenge to manage. And I think some tracking of rams seems with similar kit, with or without the virtual fence, but with all the rest of it, could well be cost effective, I think. Given the value of rams and the value of and the failure and the problem of failure is when a ram's not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Here, Elinor and Tony, it's been a pleasure to hear about it. It's been something I've been aware of, as I mentioned earlier on, for some time, but actually understanding the intricacies is definitely not something I have done. I certainly look forward to sort of seeing how the trial goes with the 4 and maybe more farms through the Monitor Farm programme, and I'm quite certain I'll be in touch with you again. We'll maybe have you on in a couple of years' time to see how this has went. But thank you both for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It was very nice being here. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
No, thank you both, and all the best to yourselves as well. For those of you listening, that's been episode 1 of series 2 of Field Talk, the Monitor Farm Scotland programme. The last series, as I said earlier, was really sort of hearing the backstory, hearing the story of the farms involved, the 9 farms around Scotland, as well as a vet special. Might be a wee bit late for you to go listen to now, but we're going to come round to lambing again next year. This series, as you've seen the first episode of today, is going to be focusing on really sort of those innovation projects involved in the Monitor Farm programme, of which there is a lot. I can't say what's next because we haven't got the sort of next episode organised yet, but we've got a few coming up in this series. So as always, thank you very much for listening, and we shall see you for the next episode. See you then.
Thanks for tuning in to the Monitor Farm Scotland podcast. Don't forget to click subscribe wherever you get your podcast from for more episodes as we continue to dive into the stories from our Monitor farms. If you want to stay updated with our latest news and events, please visit the Monitor Farm Scotland website and follow us on social media for more updates and keep in the know about what our farms are getting up to. Monitor Farm Scotland is funded by Scottish Government and managed by Quality Meat Scotland and NHTV.